What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of And the Geek Shall Inherit the Podcast. It's your boy, Dwayne Adams, aka Scoop Dog. This conversation revolves around the darker corner of comic book cinema. It's the similarities between a villain like Thanos and one of history's most infamous motherfuckers, Adolf Hitler. Now, I'm pretty sure this comparison might have been made numerous times, but I just want to give my take on this because it was such a heavy conversation. And when you think about it, comic books and real world history have a lot more in common than a lot of you may think. The parallels can be chilling at times, and they show why villains like Thanos resonate so strongly with us as the comic book moviegoers. So let's delve into some aspects of this, and I'm gonna love to hear your feedback, your comments, your thoughts. Anything that you got, just drop it in the comments below. All right, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's start with the ideology. Thanos always believed that the universe was suffering from overpopulation and limited resources, right? So what was his solution? Erase half of life with a snap of his fingers. Hitler's ideology, on the other hand, was more rooted in ideas of racial purity and the idea that Germany needed more living space, which could only be achieved by eliminating those that he quote unquote deemed undesirable. Different goals, but the same twisted logic that mass killing is somehow justified by the, once again, quote unquote, greater good. Both men have framed genocide as a necessary act of salvation, right? Another parallel is this whole Messiah complex. Who died and made you king? Thanos sees himself as the only one willing to make the hard choices, almost like a reluctant savior. Remember that line in Infinity War where he said,
"The hardest choices require the strongest wills."
The hardest choices require the strongest wills. Hitler, who also portrayed himself as Germany's savior, the man chosen to restore the nation after economic collapse and humiliation following World War I. See, they both have that Messiah complex. In both cases, their followers bought into this idea that these leaders weren't just men, they were destiny. Neither Thanos or Hitler achieved their goals alone, right? Fanaticism, followers, beliefs, cult, it's all the same. Thanos had his Black Order, the loyal generals who carried out his will. Hitler had the SS and propaganda machines that spread his ideology across an entire nation. The common thread? Charisma. It's sick to think, but how else does a snake charm, right? Both figures convinced others that unthinkable acts were not only acceptable, but necessary. It has to be in you already to have that kind of evil that you'd want to harm or take another life just because you need to survive or they look different from you. That's a sickness in my opinion. But to convince an entire nation to stand behind you and do that is insane. That's terrifying power, and it's the power of persuasion, and that kind of power in the wrong hands can be extremely catastrophic. Here's where things get especially relevant in what the world's like today. Thanos had a tendency to reduce the universe's problem to like a mathematical equation. Half must die so the other half can survive. Hitler reduced Germany's problems to blaming entire groups of people. Both are dangerously simple solutions to incredibly complex problems, like conversation before war, right? And history, both real and fictional, show us the catastrophic results of that kind of thinking. So why does this comparison even matter? Well, because I feel that good comic book movies aren't just flashy battles and cool CGI. They reflect the real fears and mistakes of humanity. You see, by making villains like Thanos, Marvel taps into archetypes that we recognize, right? The tyrant, the fanatic, the genocidal visionary. And when audiences watch heroes stand up to that shit, it reminds us kind of the responsibilities that we have in this real world. Question leaders, to challenge harmful ideologies, and to never let history repeat itself, even though sometimes it feels like it's destined to do that. Well, that's all for today's deep dive. If you guys like this kind of dissections of villains. I want to tap into more, get into their real world comparison. If you like these videos, like, comment, share your thoughts too on what you think. And what do you think? Is Thanos just a cosmic Hitler, or is there more nuance to his character? Drop your thoughts in your comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this episode. Until the next time, keep your comics close and your villains under a microscope.